So hello everyone, welcome to the Analytics Instrumentation Sync on the 10th of October 2023. We have quite a few things to get through. I have the first topic. I just want to get this quickly through because the next topics are all discussions which might take us a bit longer. So we're going to release internal events officially. I think mostly it's just a user needing to press the button to send out the communication, and then it's going to become official. So I think that's just generally for everyone to know that from that point onward, like more or less today onward, we should try to push people officially to use internal events. No longer just like, hey, please try this out. Maybe if you want to kind of live on the cutting edge, but more like, okay, please use this and don't use the old stuff anymore. And regarding that, Ankit actually had a question that came up.
Yeah, actually, like I was reviewing one of the MR today, and where like it feels like they didn't follow the documentation. They just copy pasted the code from like the existing functionality in their group, and like it can happen sometimes. Rather than what is working in the code, I can just copy paste it rather than going through the documentation and see from the scratch like what is happening. So like how do we handle such scenarios in that case?
So my suggestion towards that was that ideally, I don't think we should force people right now already to kind of, if they have like a fully prepared MR, to just go back to the drawing board and be like, hey, you should rewrite this because we have this new functionality. I think if it's applicable, in some cases, I think it might be possible that we kind of ourselves do just a few suggestions in the MR to switch over to internal events. Because in a lot of cases, it's just going to be, okay, please, for example, in the front-end case, please change this import here that you're doing. Please change the call that you're doing here. It's going to look slightly different, and please change the data source in your event, and then give them the link so that we kind of help them in the journey and kind of proactively help to carry something over to internal events. That would be my suggestion to do if it's applicable, and if not, then let it go through for now, but remind them, hey, we're now using this new thing, please for the next time use this thing rather than just copy pasting what you already have, to create like more awareness. But I'd also be interested if there's other opinions.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I know of some groups that have like internal checklists. If you want to instrument this and that feature, do this and that, and it uses the old functionalities. So well, they have to switch, and we'll have to prod them to change the way they do things, I guess.
Yeah, I think also we shouldn't force them. I think also in some teams they already have kind of almost small frameworks built on top of instrumentation, because they do like kind of generate what is it? There's like different integrations. I think they kind of have their own. I think there's also something with different, like, is it pipeline templates or something that is kind of where all the I mean they do have the events. I guess they don't even have the events. I think that might be something to look out for, because we don't enforce that people create event definitions. So I think that's I think we should start asking people to do that, even if it's not technically required for it to work. But
yeah, I agree with that, with the event definitions. I'm wondering, because there is these like you call like these tiny frameworks that teams have built around kind of our event tracking in some cases. I wonder if it would be worth it to immediately like create when we encounter one of those, to immediately create an issue around migrating the event, and then we can kind of figure out together with the team like whether we should do this or they are going to do that. Because in most cases, this is going to be like a high leverage to switch a lot of events over. And if we have an issue, then it might be easier to coordinate kind of how hard is it going to be. Is this something that we can do quickly, or maybe can do together with them? Does that make sense?
I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about something we could consider, and that is to create, I don't know, maybe it's an issue where we track the reason why new merge requests are not using internal events.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like, yeah, kind of product feedback, and some of it could be because they have like, yeah, as Piotr said, there's kind of a checklist that they're following, and how it's already, I mean, not too late, but now it's all like it's already ready to ship. But it could also be that they're using these internal frameworks, so other reasons we don't know about.
Yeah, I guess like what happens is like if there is new tracking, generally in other groups having like in the description itself, it might be written like we already have something like this, work on this based on that. So rather than going to the docs, they just use that in the code. They just search for the code and use that. But I think that makes sense. Like if we can apply the suggestions when the MR is there, and like they just need to apply those suggestions, it becomes easier. So yeah.
But yeah, I think I agree with Jonas to kind of create like maybe we can also turn it into a feedback issue, that where we can also ask others to, like they can leave their feedback there, and we can also document in that issue if there's places where where it wasn't possible, or like out of some reason or other, people didn't still created a old type event.
Yeah, I guess that will raise the awareness as well with the feedback. So yeah.
And then I think we should invite them for the office hours. Now that we're starting to fill out the office hours again. No, but I think that would be good to, if they, I mean, we can still approve the MR, but I think maybe just like maybe the reason they chose the old way of doing is that they didn't want to spend the time on learning the new version now. So maybe we could walk through how migration could look like in the office hours. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we can also do it even if they don't attend, just like, and nobody else is there. We could kind of migrate this thing and send them the recording.
Yeah,
we could do a video. We've done videos before to explain how certain features work, so that would be nice.
cool. Yeah, I think that's a lot of good input. I'm really curious how this is going to go. All right, I think then we can move on to the next topic.
Yeah, thanks, Basti. Let me just share my screen on to show you where we are with the OKRs. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, see it.
Yeah, so okay, cool. So I think the first OKR is based on the feedback that we received on internal events. which was mainly that the configuration is taking time. And also in general, when I spoke to product managers, the feedback was that instrumentation is taking longer than they would like, and a lot of capacity, and sometimes they're resource constrained, and instrumentation takes a backseat. So the intention of this OKR was to kind of reduce the pain points that users currently have with internal events, and how can we kind of make it more simple and effective for them to instrument. So this is just a rough list of the KRs, but if you all have any ideas, we're open to considering it and changing this KR. The first one is to build a solution that reduces time and effort taken to instrument features. I haven't been able to come up with like a proper metric that would measure it, but I know we spoke about the UI, but the KR is kept such that we can also explore other solutions. It doesn't have to be one particular solution, but any solution that kind of reaches the end goal of reducing the time and effort taken to instrument features. The second KR is around the coverage of the different types of events and metrics for internal events, so that we are covering a wide array of use cases, so that our users are not looking at other options outside of internal events to instrument. In case of, I think we had an example with the, if I remember right, the total count of the unique counts. So how many more such types of events and metrics can we cover to kind of have a wide range of use cases. And the third KR is around feedback. So hoping to collect more feedback on internal events, and hopefully with these solutions we have at least 80% for good feedback on both on the coverage and the effort it takes to instrument the features. We can also restructure this based on the suggestions that you may have. Any comments on this OKR?
I have a question to the third key result. The coverage, is that is that related to key result 2? Like how many features
That's correct.
it has?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's related to feature 2, and the efforts related to KR1. Yeah.
I have a question for the OKR. We don't actually maintain the service ping analysis engine. This is done by Martin from customer success, I believe. So do we just cooperate with him on this one, or how do you think that would work?
You jumped to OKR 3 now, right?
Yeah. Are we just discussing them in order? Okay. I can wait, sorry.
No, that's okay. Thanks for the question. We can jump to that KR in case OKR 3 in case nobody else has questions on OKR 1.
I just have potentially one suggestion, or so because you already said that it's kind of tricky for KR1, like how to measure that. I don't know if we want to put a timer next to somebody while they're instrumenting an event and see how long it takes them to make a race out of it. But like worst case, we could even just, I think, maybe get rid of the key result and just have the third one, because that already covers it to an extent. It's like, okay, and also, like, I mean, if anybody has an idea on how to kind of quantitatively like somehow judge the effort of analyzing something, that's then I think we can do it. If we don't have any, then I think just using user input and their kind of feedback would be fine from my point of view.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Basti. Yeah, I just put that there because that's the only way I could think of, measuring it. Like our end goal is to kind of make sure our users are okay with the effort that is needed for the instrumentation. And as long as we're able to get that in the feedback and say, yeah, this is taking us less effort than before, that would be a good measure. Yeah. So I'll kind of combine that into one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really subjective. There's no other way than to just do user interviews, I guess.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, so on point 3, this is around a cross-stage data vision. We also have a separate issue that discusses this in more detail. I'll link that in our agenda. So the goal here is to enable self-managed customers to be able to access usage metrics more easily. So currently, our external customers, the way they get usage data is through CSMs, and CSMs run, and a lot of our self-managed external customers are also, public sector customers that can't automatically send us data, so they manually send files to our CSMs. CSMs use the service ping analysis engine where they upload it and derive metrics and insights and provide this for our customers. So although we are providing currently, we have JSON files that they can download from interviews with CSMs and customers. What we learned is that they would like to see metrics and gain insights more easily than they currently can, which is harder when they have to download a JSON file and kind of process this data and then analyze it to get insights. So in the first iterations, the KR is around how we can make this more available to our customers. I know Basti had some ideas around this, so I'll let Basti talk more on it.
Yeah, so I guess the general idea is to pull this into the instance itself, the information, like something like the information that the service ping analysis engine is providing, because in theory, all the information is already there in the service ping, like the actual data, the JSON file. But in the instance, we're only showing that to the users as a JSON file. And I think maybe in an ideal world, we would just snap our fingers and whatever the service ping analysis engine is doing right now is just then part of the instance, and you can, as an admin, you can somehow access it and just see it that way, so that you don't need to jump through the hoops of, I don't know, sending it to a CSM and then, or just first downloading it, sending it to a CSM. The CSM uploads it in the service ping analysis engine, looks at it, and kind of gives you back the information. I'm not 100% sure if really the best way is then to kind of just copy what the service ping analysis engine is doing, but it might also be that we just at least go into that direction. So I think in the other issue, one first iteration that I suggested was to just textually represent all the metrics that have this. We have this performance indicator called customer success metric or something like that. So this should normally include all the metrics that are also used in Gainsight, or then probably also in the service ping analysis engine. So to kind of rate a customer, how well they're doing in adopting this. And the first step, for example, would just be that we provide these metrics directly to the customer in a UI, not necessarily even with graphs, but just kind of say, okay, these are the, I don't know, 10, 20, 50 metrics, and that's their value and that's their description. That's it. That could be a first iteration. And then kind of next iteration could be, okay, let's actually dashboard this as either as something that happens over time, or as how does this compare to the average customer or something So that's what I think Gainsight and Service Ping Analysis Engine is doing, is like they have some rules around, okay, given that many users, how many MRs would we expect? Given that many users, how many issues being created would we expect, to kind of give a rating to the user? That could be a further iteration then. But it's just about like taking this big unwieldy blob of JSON that the service ping currently is, and somehow turning it into something that can provide a bit of value to the admins of an instance. Yeah.
Thanks, Pastor, for that explanation. So for 25 Q4, is this goal okay, or would you like to break it down into like the first, like would you like to have just the first iteration, or is this KR okay, or would this need to be like toned back to the first iteration?
So what I'm not 100% sure of is, because the service ping analysis engine, it's built, I think, to be mainly used by the CSM. So I don't even know if like if an admin just looking at it without a CSM guiding them, if we were to build this completely into the system, if that would even be something that provides enough value. I'm wondering if we can make it the KR a bit more, a bit broader. So instead of like clearly saying, okay, this is the feature we want to build, maybe make it around, I don't have a good idea from top of mind, but it's more about like somehow providing value with the service ping data to the admin directly.
Got it.
And let's make it about exactly how that's going to look like. It might look like the service ping analysis engine, but I'm not 100% sure about whether it's going to be exactly that. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, I'll adjust the KR to measure the value versus a particular solution there. Yeah. Anyone else has any more thoughts or inputs on this KR, OKR?
So I have one question on, apart from this OKR, like I don't see any OKR related to product analytics. So
yeah, we spoke about that. We decided not to have a separate OKR, but collaborate with product analytics on their OKRs instead of having a separate KR for ourselves. So we'll still be working on product analytics initiatives, but we'll just be collaborating on that group specific KRs. Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah, I think the reasoning behind this was also that it's not 100%. So I think that the OKR on their side is something like, okay, let's get it to product analytics to beta, and that for us this mainly means, okay, whatever comes up that we need to do, like bugs that we need to fix or scalability problems that we need to tackle, we need to like prioritize this kind of stuff. At this point, it's less clear in the sense of, okay, we need to, I don't know, build this or that functionality. It's more about, okay, reacting to the feedback that we get. So that's why there's also no kind of separate clear MR. Because, for example, I think somewhere down there we discussed if more SDKs, for example, are needed. And I think the feedback from James was like the current set is fine for going to general availability, I think. And then we can add more. So there's no kind of roadmap where we need to kind of provide new features right now. It's more about the kind of reacting to the feedback that we get.
Maybe we can dogfood the backend SDK is more like we have been dogfooding the browser SDK, Ruby SDK, I think, the metrics, but like somewhere along those lines, like we haven't tested, like for example, Node SDK or something in the active application. So
if you have suggestions there for the other languages where you know about existing systems where we could instrument it, then please make those. I think we can always, like, regardless of the OKRs, do that. I wasn't aware if there's any kind of Node application that has actually kind of features that would be worth instrumenting running at GitLab. We still have issues to instrument the backend, the main GitLab backend within this quarter. And that would mean that we have the Ruby SDK at least running in 3 different places: metrics, version, app, and then also the main one. So that gives us, I think that's a pretty good coverage for the main for the Ruby SDK. But definitely, if we have, if any of you is aware of systems where we could include the Node or Python SDK or even the .NET one, then let us know.
OKR2 make the overall instrumentation system more manageable. Basti, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, sure. So I think the idea behind this was we have so many migrations, or like so much older events. And also, I mean, we're currently on the maintenance side, we're in the process of migrating away from usage data. But now with the move to internal events, we we are adding something new, but this also means that there's like 2,000 event, or like not 2,000, but I think around 1,000 Res HLL metrics that are kind of old, and Redis metrics that are kind of old, and so on. And the goal for this would be to make the whole system more manageable in the sense of kind of reducing all this old systems. So how that exactly looks like, I mean, that's not 100% clear yet, but the idea would be really, okay, how can we, for example, move over completely to internal events, just get rid of all the Redis HLL events? Is there some way? And that might not be just us doing that. So, for example, that, or some of you might be aware that the Foundation's front-end team is doing those pajamas migration days, where they're migrating like old UI elements, and they're just kind of eliciting help from all over the company. I don't know, maybe there's something similar possible for our systems. Maybe there's something where we can use more automation. Because right now it feels like we're slowly getting to a point where we're just adding like one new thing after the other, and it can also get more confusing for people. Like people coming in that are still using that see Redis HLL events all over the place, and then if they want to instrument something on their own, we're going to need to tell them, no, please don't use that. Use the internal events thing. Also within the team, kind of, we still need to understand all of this old stuff, because it still might break, right? It's like, as long as there's still Redis HLL metrics around, we still need to make sure that they're running. So there's like a maintenance effort that's going to be ongoing as long as we don't get rid of this completely. And I think we need to make a bit like a plan around kind of how can we get out of this hole, because otherwise it's going to be like very tricky if we just add more and more things on top. Yeah, and so I think the key result here is really, the first one is important to get to some kind of iteration plan. So how can we step by step make the system more manageable, and then have some kind of first iteration complete. So that's really something that we still need to figure out. And if anyone has ideas, I think that's also something where we need to all collaborate together to figure out how we can make our system more manageable in the long run.
Thanks, Basti. Yeah, so those were our OKRs. If anyone has any more suggestions on things we should be prioritizing or deprioritizing here, happy to take it. The issues linked in the agenda, you can also leave comments there. Yeah, I think that's all I had here, Basti.
Cool. I can also voice the next one. I think that's a discussion that mostly was between Tanuja and me so far. For the OKRs for the current quarter, we have one to start measure 2 data quality metrics. as much upstream as possible and get alerted. We are already working on creating alerts for missing data, so kind of measuring that. So that's kind of, we have issues for doing that on Snowplow and service ping. But the big question is kind of, what else should we be measuring? So I think when we set up this OKR, it was kind of very broad about, okay, maybe we can come up with another data quality element, which by measuring it kind of warns us early about incidents and about how well our system is behaving. And yeah, it would be cool to use this opportunity if any one of you has any ideas on what other data quality element or thing we could be measuring. And just to voice Mihaw's remark, for the missing data, maybe it would make sense to set it up on both sides. That's a good point, and there is already a issue for the data team to connect the version app to Monte Carlo. So that's actually something that we're going to be able to do, but probably only next month, because I don't think the data team has it yet set up. So the version app database is going to be connected to Monte Carlo, so we can actually, in the future, also run alerts and so on the version app database directly. We don't need to wait for service pings to get imported into the data warehouse first before running anything.
I was thinking it's a little bit, I don't really know where it relates to in the pipeline, but I think we've seen sometimes where people implement a metric, we review it, it gets merged, and then it doesn't work. Like we had this thing with front-end events recently that was like, it looked good, we all approved of it, and but they were never there. Like they can't have been in any environment. I don't know if we could set up something that would detect this in a and I'm not even sure how that looks in with staging and so on, but if we add a new metric, so we can see based on the metric definition when a metric is added, could we somehow kind of put it on a list where it kind of needs to be checked off in staging environment, or maybe even in production? We need, after a deploy, to see this event come through before we can kind of check it off as done. I don't know if this is related to the data quality. I mean, it kind of is, but kind of at a very narrow focus, right, on one. I mean, it can also potentially detect big problems, but I think a lot of the data quality stuff we talked about is more like an infrastructure part, like things completely breaking, like big parts of the system breaking, and not just individual metrics. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
First of all, I think this is definitely also related to data quality. I don't know how exactly you would call that. It's somewhat also missing data, but not to an extent. It's also data quality, because it's like, it's not like the complete thing missing or like loads of things missing, but rather something very specific not working. So it's maybe also could also be called, I think, data quality. What I thought of when you described that problem was maybe a more alerting like approach. What I think should be possible in theory is to alert us if new metrics are not reporting data counts, or because I mean, the question is, are they, like, in most cases, I think we can assume that those in the case of internal events, at least, I mean, if there's a metric, then it's gonna be part of the service ping, right? It's just gonna report as 0.
Yeah.
So in that case, I think we could make an alert out of, okay, a metric that hasn't been there before reports 0 when it's added. And then we would get an alert, and then we could see, okay, is this expected? Because I mean, no, maybe the feature is not implemented yet or something like that, or not.
Behind feature flags or something.
Yeah. So we at least we would get warned, and could also warn the team that, like, hey, you implemented this new thing, but it didn't report anything. And it's always better, I think, if we had this topic before about kind of trust into our system and so on. And I think from this point of view, from the trust point of view, it would always be better to, if we are the ones proactively warning a team, hey, something went wrong with your implementation there, and maybe we are working on a fix, or you should be working on a fix, rather than them kind of discovering it after, I don't know, 2-3 weeks that something went wrong when the first time they check into the service ping.
Just an idea. This might be complete over-engineering and definitely not first iteration, but we already have merge request links, so introduced in the metric definitions. Could we how about we would, after the first service ping where a new metric is included, we auto-generate a message with some of the data, like saying it was reported from this many instances, the average number was this. I don't know what kind of gives people an indication that, or you can or maybe make a link to a Sysens search. I mean, because then we kind of, there is this kind of disconnect between you merge, you're done with your review, you merge, and then it takes a couple of weeks, or even more than a month to get the first data back from self-managed. And what are you thinking?
I can try to speak. Nobody else does. I like it, but I'm also curious what others think. Could be. I mean, in theory, it should be possible to at least like send someone discover that, then send a link into the MR with the and tag, for example, the author and add the Sysens query or something like that.
Yeah, I think it definitely falls under missing data, but my only thing is, how often does this happen, and how early do people instrument their features before they go out to users, and do we need to think of like an appropriate time to come up, to check if they're 0, like do we have kind of other issues that we see more frequently in your experience that we could be measuring quality there upstream?
So from my experience, I think, I mean, if we would do it like Jonas said, then we would always send an actual number, right? I think that's would probably need to be a confidential thing then. But then it wouldn't necessarily be like missing data, because it could also be just that the number is a lot lower than you would expect. And it would be up to the user or the MR author to decide, is this what I expect? Like, do I expect the 0 because I haven't added anything, like I haven't really kind of exposed this to users yet? Or would I expect at least like a 2, or would I expect a 200, or I don't know. Like, normally you have some kind of expectation associated with an event that you're tracking. What I really like is this idea of, tying somehow, I mean, it doesn't need to look exactly what Jonas said, but somehow giving people more insight into the effect of what they did. Like, they added a metric and now this is the result. Because I think also for engineers and so on, it can sometimes be a bit of this disconnect. Like, they added a metric, but they're never going to look at the Sisense dashboard. They just leave that to the product manager, and then the product manager looks at it, I don't know, a month from now, and then the number doesn't look right and so on. So being more proactive about that actually sounds like a good thing to me, to somehow report back the effect a new instrumentation has.
Okay, sounds good to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are two distinct problems here. One is that we'd want to inform users on metrics that are 0 for whatever reason, and we'd also like to check that when we fire an event, that's going to increment some sorts of a metric, and that would be a end-to-end test, because there might be multiple points of failure along the way, and that's going to be substantially more complex, I think. But yeah, in general, I like the idea.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would help the developers to know that like their service ping has landed, and like they can check with the Sisense like they don't need to manually go and check, and they can track, and they can be alerted like if something is wrong. Yeah.
Right. Then if nobody has other comments right now, what I would suggest is I can create an issue that encapsulates this idea for now and get Jonas's and all your input again. But also feel free, if you have, like, during the next hours or days, if you think about any kind of other data quality elements, or if you think about incidents that we had and can somehow connect that back to, okay, how could we have, like, what should we have measured to realize this earlier? Then I think then please add this directly to the objective, or also kind of just message it in our Slack channel or wherever. So any ideas, I think, are welcome there. And then we can follow along on maybe like how we can iteratively go towards something like Jonas suggested.
Just a question. Does this also cover end-to-end testing? Because I think that's something we should look into soon. It's not really addressing the data quality problem in production, because hopefully it would detect the problems before it made it to production. But at least, yeah, I think some of the problems, incidents we've had would have been detected earlier if we had end-to-end test.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I don't think that's what their objective was aiming at. I agree. I'm currently talking to Tim again and others to figure out kind of if we can get also quality support for end-to-end testing, because they normally have more understanding of the current end-to-end testing pipeline and how we could fit into that. Yeah, but I think it's a good reminder that this is something we should also look at. Okay, so we're close to being at time, and it was already kind of a long discussion. So my suggestion would be the next discussion is not necessarily something that we need to discuss today. We can also move that into next week. So I'd just move that over, except if someone wants to really talk about this still. All right. Doesn't seem like it. Then I'm just going to move that into the next week's sync. And thanks a lot, everyone, for your contributions. I think it was really helpful to have this longer discussion, and also have the time for those discussions. But please feel free to either in the retro or directly to me or anywhere let me know about what you think about kind of having those discussions, and also having a bit like reserving more time for the sync. So we now did 2 longer discussions and 1 short one within roughly 50 minutes. This was the first time that we officially made the instrumentation sync that long. Any feedback on that, how you think about this kind of being a longer meeting would also be appreciated. All right, then have a nice day, everyone.
Thanks, Basti. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.
See you.
Bye-bye.
See ya.